Hi, my name is Deb Weiss-Gelmi, and this is a gentle yoga class. For today's class, you'll need a wall, a mat, a folding chair, and if you don't have a folding chair, a dining chair is okay, and then a strap. A strap could be a necktie, a belt, anything that you've got around like that. If you really can't find anything, even a hand towel would be fine. Our first pose is Supta Padangusthasana, reclined hand to big toe pose. And we're going to do the version where the leg goes out to the side. Sometimes it's called lateral, sometimes it's called parshva. So watch first and then we'll do it together. So first I lie down on my back where my feet can touch against the wall. So my heel, I press through the inner heel, big toe mound, and lengthen away, taking that top buttock away from the low back. And so now I'm in Supta Tadasana, reclined mountain pose. So just like in the standing pose where we do it, we press through the inner heel, big toe mound, roll the outer shoulders back, point the fingers toward the wall, bend my leg, make sure my head stays on the floor. I put the strap around the foot and extend up through the inner heel, big toe mound. The leg that's on the floor, I press the thigh into the floor and extend through the inner foot. Then I put both straps in the one hand, extend my arm out to the side, and as I take this leg to the side, I am pressing my outer thigh toward my bone, toward the bone, especially near the hip socket. So as I'm going down, I'm pressing that outer thigh toward the bone, or in this case, toward the ceiling. So the two actions we're focusing on today, pressing the thigh down of the leg that's extending to the wall, and press the outer thigh toward the bone or toward the ceiling in this orientation. And then to come out, I bend that leg, put my foot on the floor, join my feet together on the floor, and then we would do the other side. So we're in our Supta Tadasana. So press through the inner heel, big toe mound, roll the outer shoulders toward the floor, and extend my fingers, or extend your fingers, toward the wall. Then, keeping your left leg straight, bend your right leg, keep your head on the floor, don't lift it to loop it. Sometimes you have to just kind of throw the belt around the foot. And then with one strap in each hand, extend the right leg, foot up toward the ceiling. Extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. So now our two anchor points, the leg that is on the floor, your left leg, that top thigh, the front thigh is pressing toward the floor. And then when we start to take your right leg out to the side, that outer right thigh is pressing toward the bone. So switch your straps to the right hand, take your left arm out to the side, level with your shoulder, and take your right leg out to the side. So the two anchor points, press the leg that's against the wall, the left leg thigh toward the floor, and the right outer thigh toward the bone, or in this case, toward the ceiling. And then bend your legs, bend both legs, bring your feet together on the floor, and then extend your legs straight out to the wall again. Reminder to keep your head on the floor. Bend the left leg this time. Loop that belt around, so sometimes it'll take a little while to get that strap around the foot. Extend the left leg up toward the ceiling. So the leg that's on the floor, press the top thigh or the front thigh toward the floor as you extend through the inner foot. And then the left leg, put your left hand holding the two straps, take your right arm out to the side, and take your left leg out to the side as well. And now that left outer thigh is pressing toward the bone or toward the ceiling, especially near the outer hip or that hip socket. Supta Padangusthasana. And then bend your leg, put your foot on the floor, join both feet together with your feet on the floor, legs bent. And now we'll do it a second time, now that you have some familiarity with it. So we'll start out in Tadasana again. Supta Tadasana, which is reclined mountain. Press through the inner heel, big toe mound. Now keep that left leg strong and lengthening into the wall. You want your heel firmly in place on the wall and the big toe mound. And then press the left thigh down to the floor. Bend the right knee, put your foot on the floor. Reminder to keep your head on the floor. Bend the right, or lift the right knee toward your chest, loop the belt around the foot, and extend through the inner heel, big toe mound. So again, the left leg, press the front thigh to the floor. And the lifted leg, the outer thigh toward the bone. Put both straps into your right hand, left arm out to the side, and as you take that right leg down, the outer right thigh toward the bone. Or when it's closer to the floor, it's toward the ceiling. And then bring that leg back up. Bend the right leg, put your foot to the floor, join both feet together with the knees bent and the feet on the floor. And then we'll go back to Supta Tadasana. Both feet firmly into the wall. So if you have scooted away from the wall, scoot yourself back toward the wall so your heels can be firmly on the wall. This helps with stability in the pose. So keeping my right leg firmly on the ground, pressing that right thigh into the floor, bend the left leg, bring your knee toward your chest, loop the belt, extend your left leg up toward the ceiling. Now some of you might grab the big toe and not use the strap. So some of you might have two fingers where you grab onto the big toe. So it's the first and second finger grabbing onto the big toe and then going out to the side. Many of you will use the strap. Put both straps in the left hand and then take the left leg out to the side. I'm pressing firmly on the top right leg and the outer left thigh toward the bone, especially near that hip socket. So my stability comes from that pressing down of the right leg and the foot into the wall, and then the outer left thigh pressing toward that bone. And then bend the leg, put your left foot on the floor, right foot on the floor, and then roll to your side to come out. Our next pose is Utthita Trikonasana, triangle pose. So stand in the middle of your mat, press through your inner heel, big toe mound. Lift your side chest up. Press the thighs back and the middle buttock forward. So jump or step your feet wide. And then turn your feet to the right. Press through the outer edge of the back foot. And then of that back leg, press the thigh toward the wall and the hip toward the wall. That hip bone toward the wall. And keeping that structure as you tip down to your side. So pressing that thigh toward the wall and keeping that hip pinned back toward the wall. Then extend your arm up. And then to come out, press through the outer edge of that back foot to come up, toes forward, and to the other side. So it's really nice to be right up against the wall for this, so the pinning of the hip back can be supported by the wall. So if you're not quite at the wall, scoot yourself back. And then press the right thigh toward the wall and the right hip bone toward the wall, pinning it back as you tip to the left. Try to focus your attention on the right hip bone going toward the wall. And then to come out, press through the outer edge of the back foot. To come up, toes forward. So now if you feel as though you can get a little closer to the wall, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to do the pose a second time. So turn your feet to the right. And then my left thigh is pressing toward the wall, and my right hip is pinning back toward the wall as I go away from that side. So as I tip down, that pinning back is happening. And when that happens, it makes it easier for the torso to turn up. So my navel toward the ceiling and my chest toward the ceiling. And then spread across those arms. And then if it's comfortable for you, you can look up. But the most important part that we're working on today is keeping that hip pinned toward the wall. And then press through the outer edge of the back foot to come up, toes forward, and to the other side. So now, as we go to tip to the left, the right hip is staying pinned back, pressing that thigh back. And then focusing that hip, staying open, so not dropping forward, but staying back. And then as that top hip bone is pinning back toward the wall, it makes the navel and chest an easier, lighter twist up toward the ceiling. It's not so much a twist so much as an action going up, a lightness. And then you can look to your fingertips if you wish. And then to come out, press through the outer edge of the back foot, toes forward, fingertips together, and jump or step back together. So the next pose is called Ardha Chandrasana, and this is the one where we use the chair. So for this one, we'll put the chair with the back of the chair toward your screen and the front of the chair snug against the wall. Okay, so what's cool about this pose is it's basically the first pose that we did on the floor, but in a standing version. So you'll hear, so we're going to use the same ideas in each of those poses, just as we did with triangle pose too. So I'll show you quickly. My right foot is forward, and it's just a couple inches from the wall, so I can use the stability of the wall, and the right forearm goes down. I turn my chest toward the wall, and now the standing leg is the leg that we took out to the side in the first pose. So this is the one that was on the floor, and it's pressing, you're pressing the thigh against the wall. So I extend through the inner heel, big toe mound, but this hip stays pinned back. I press the thigh toward the wall. And then the last point is that outer thigh of that standing leg is going toward the bone. Another way to think of it is to take your thigh or hip away from the wall. So this is going toward the wall. The bottom leg, outer thigh, is going away from the wall. Okay, so let's do that together. So the right foot toward the chair, a couple inches from the wall. The right forearm on the chair, left hand on the back of the chair. And then lift the back leg up, straightening that leg on the bottom. And then thinking of the pose that we did at the beginning. So the top thigh is going toward the wall. And we're pinning that hip toward the wall. And then the standing leg thigh goes away from the wall. Or the outer thigh going toward the bone. And then, again, that torso just gets to be light and turning along with the work of the legs. So the navel toward the ceiling, the chest toward the ceiling. And then we'll come on down and do the other side. So now the left foot is about a foot from the chair, a couple inches from the wall, the left forearm on the chair seat. And bend that standing leg, extend the lifted leg out. Okay, so the lifted leg, the thigh, the front thigh presses toward the wall, and the top hip pins back toward the wall. And then the outer thigh of the standing leg goes toward the bone, especially near that hip socket. Another way to say it is that outer thigh goes away from the wall. And then with all that work of the legs, the torso turns up more easily. The navel, the chest. Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. And then we'll come on down. And now we'll do it a second time. We'll go a little faster, but knowing those actions. So the lifted leg thigh pressing toward the wall, and the standing leg thigh, that outer thigh going into the bone, especially near that hip socket. So when we're in this orientation, that outer thigh is going away from the wall. So we'll put it all together now that we're a little more familiar with it. So the right foot is about a foot from the chair and then a couple inches from the wall. The right forearm on the chair seat, and then lifting that back leg up. Now that lifted thigh pressed toward the wall. And of course the heel's on the wall. And then the outer thigh of that standing leg comes away from the wall, or closer to the bone. And then turn the torso up. And then we'll come on out and do the other side. So the left foot about a foot from the chair, a couple inches from the wall, the left forearm on the chair, lifting that back leg up. So now that lifted leg, the thigh presses toward the wall, keeping that hip pinned back. And in the bottom leg, the outer thigh away from the wall, especially near that outer hip, or that hip socket. And then turn the torso. Lengthen through the crown of the head. And then come on down. Our next pose is Vriksasana, tree pose. So we'll have the chair so it's on your left if you want that for a balancing. And then you can also have the wall. So we start in Tadasana, put our elbows into the wall just for measurement, just so we know where that wall is. We don't want to lean on the wall. We just have the elbows there for measurement, and then take the arms away. And then we'll bring the chair in if you want the chair. We want stability in this pose today because we're going to work on some finer points. So we don't want to have to worry about the balance too much. So open up your right leg and lift that foot high up on the inner thigh. If it doesn't go to the inner thigh, high up on the inner thigh, you could put it on the calf muscle, or even with the balls of the toes on the floor, the heel on the foot. So once your foot is in place, draw in your outer left hip. And so just with same with the last pose, or even if you think back to the one where we were lying on the floor at the beginning of the class, we're pressing that thigh back. So this would be the leg that was on the floor in that first Padangusthasana pose. And this leg, we would imagine as the one that goes out to the side. And so that outer hip or outer thigh pressing toward the bone happens for this one very much in the area of the hip socket, or that outer hip there, outer buttock. Because the knee is opening up away from the navel, and that hip is what's coming forward, that outer hip. And then we'll switch legs. Straighten that leg back down. Back to Tadasana, and then we'll switch the chair to the other side. Measure yourself from the wall, standing in Tadasana. Take your arms down, and then open up the left side. Lift that foot high up on the inner thigh. Again, if you need to have the foot on the calf muscle or on the floor, but not on your knee. And then draw the outer right hip in, just to make sure we're not losing that hip going out. And then, similar to the other poses we've been working on today, the front thigh of the standing leg goes back. And then the outer hip or outer thigh of the lifted leg, you're taking that into the bone or away from the wall. But in this pose, especially up near that hip socket. Soften the inner knee. Lift the side chest up. And then we'll bring that leg down back to Tadasana. So our next pose is Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So I often show 3 different versions. So the first version is, so if you know downward facing dog, you can go right into it if you want to do that version. Otherwise, you can do a version where your hands are on the chair seat instead. So some of you are already in downward facing dog, so you do that. Some of you are starting here. So I'm pressing the thighs back away from the arms. Soften the face. Lengthen from the hands to the hips. Lengthening away. You want your feet right underneath your hips in this version. And then we'll come on out and we're going to do 2 more. So if you want to do that version again, go ahead and do that. You might want to go to the next version where your hands are a little bit lower on the chair seat. And again, if you're doing downward dog, you'll do it 3 times. So come up and down 3 times. So Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog. This is a version where your hands are not quite to the floor. Press the thighs back, lengthen away from the hands away from the hips away from the hands. And then again, you can do either of those 2 again, or you can take your hands to the floor. And with your hands on the floor, you want to take your palms and spread them wide. Spread the palms wide and press through that pointer finger mound. Then curl the toes under, lift from the pointer finger mound up through the inner shoulder, up toward the hips. Press the thighs away. And lengthen through the inner heels toward the floor. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Let the back of the head go. Let go of tension in your head and neck. And then come on down. So our next pose is called Chatushpadasana. And if you've seen some of these other videos, you've done this a few times. So we're going to add to it a little bit today. So if you haven't done it before, we're going to start with the easier version, and then you can always repeat that. So I'll show you Chatushpadasana on the floor first. So watch first, and then you can give it a try. So I lie down on my back, walk my feet toward my buttock, lift my hips up off the floor, flow my shoulder toward my hands, lift the tailbone up toward the ceiling, the outer thighs toward the ceiling, and soften the inner thighs. So you can either stay like this, or you can probably go up to your toes to lift that tailbone higher to get a block underneath. And then you can do a resting version. And if you like this version, this one is really good for your body. If you like this version, you can stay in this version for all of the 3 different versions that we do. Okay, you'll go up and down, of course, meaning you'll go into it until you're tired, and then you'll come out and you'll do it 2 more times. Okay, so to come out, I lift up, allow my back to come down from my neck to my tailbone last. So first, lie down on your back, walk your feet in, and be ready and aware that you're going to flow your shoulders toward your hands. But first, lift the buttocks up, flow a shoulder under, roll a shoulder under. So you're rolling the shoulder under but flowing it toward your hands. And then lift the buttocks up and that upper back up. And then if you want to keep it more muscular like this, don't add the block. If you want to keep the muscles lifting up, 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 be sure to soften the inner thigh and soften the face. And then if you want to add the block, you can. Keep lifting the buttocks up if you don't have the block. And soften the inner thighs, soften the abdomen, and soften the face. So your back body is supporting the lift. using the muscles of that upper back to lift up, and the muscles of the buttocks and the muscles of the outer thighs, lifting up, lifting up, lifting up, and then soften the inner thigh, soften the abdomen, soften the face. And then if you're on your block and you want to stay, you can. Otherwise, if you want to try another version of this pose, we can do that. So you'll come on down, and I'll show you this next version. This is where you'll need a chair. And if you have blankets, you'll fold a blanket or two at the edge of the chair. If you don't have blankets, it's okay to go up for a little bit, but don't stay up long because it's a lot of pressure on your neck and shoulders. So for this version, I'm going to move the chair out of the way for a moment, lie down on the blankets, and then pull the chair back in. Put my feet up on the chair, and then hold on to the chair legs, and I have my feet on the chair back. And then I lift up. So this is like the version we had on the floor, but with our feet higher. So then I can walk my feet to the edge of the chair, roll a shoulder under, and then lift that tailbone up, 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 up. So it's really coming this way this time. And I'm really using my buttock muscles lifting this way, the outer thighs this way, and then soften the inner thigh, soften the abdomen. And then to come out, you can let the chair go out, and then come on down and roll to your side. So now you can take your turn. So if you want to do this version, lie down on your blankets, pull the chair in. You can use your feet or your hands. Put your feet on the chair for a moment. Find the legs, the front legs of the chair. This can also be done on the couch. You would just hold under the couch. And then with my hands on the front chair legs, I have my feet on the chair back, lift my buttocks up, roll my shoulders under one at a time, and then walk the feet to the edge of the chair, and then use that leverage to press the buttocks away from the feet. Soften the face. So I'm really using that upper back, the buttock, and the outer thighs lifting up. And then soften the inner thighs, soften the abdomen, soften the face. Chatushpadasana, four-footed pose. Okay, we'll come out and rest for a moment. You can push the chair away. So now our next one, you can choose to do either the floor version that we did, using the block or not. You can do the chair pose, the chair version again with your feet on the chair, or we can go to the wall. So that will look different. So you can decide. So you don't have to even watch the wall one if you just want to do the foot one. So for the wall one, we take the blankets to the wall. So I grab the mat and I fold it in half and put it right up to the wall. And then I have my 2 or 3 blankets at the edge of the mat. And then I scoot the whole setup toward the wall, so there's just about 6 inches between the wall and the blankets. And then now, the way that my feet were up on the chair, the feet are going to be on the wall. So I roll down onto the blankets. So my shoulders are on the blanket, but my head is on the floor, and I walk my feet up the wall. So now, instead of holding onto the chair legs, I just flow my hands toward the wall as I roll to the top of a shoulder, roll to the top of a shoulder, and then with the feet on the wall, press the hips away from the wall, using the middle buttock to press away from the wall or the feet, and then flow the hands toward the wall like they were flowing toward the chair. So it's a more upside down version of Chatushpadasana. Press through the inner heel, big toe mounds. Press the buttocks away from the wall. And then I'll come on down, and now it is your turn. So now some of you might be doing the version on the floor. And if you are all finished, you can go into Shavasana right away. But some of you might be doing the version with your feet on the floor. Some might be doing your version with your feet on the chair. And then those of you who want to do this with me, we'll put our feet on the floor, on the wall. So again, it's okay if you go into Shavasana before the rest of us get there. So you'll put your shoulders onto the blankets, the head on the floor. Move yourself up the wall. Put your feet on the floor. Use that leverage to lift your buttocks up to the ceiling. Roll a shoulder under. Roll a shoulder under. Flow your hands toward the wall. Flow your shoulders to your hands toward the wall. And then with your feet flat on the wall, press your buttocks away from the wall. Soften your face. Soften your abdomen. Soften your inner thighs. Use the buttocks of the muscles to press away from the wall. And then to come out, allow your back to come down to the floor. Roll to the side. And we'll set up for Shavasana. So you can lie your mat out, lie flat on your back. You can put a little blanket under your head for a pillow. Not very much. It's just a little bit. And then lie down on your back on the mat. And with your feet on the floor, lift your buttocks up a bit. Lengthen the flesh of your buttocks away from your low back. And then take your legs out one at a time. First with your legs together, and then allow them to splay to the sides. Flow your shoulder down toward your hand, away from your ears. And then begin to let go from the top of your head all the way down to your feet. Soften the muscles on your face. Relax from the middle of your forehead down to the temples and down toward the floor. Soften your cheeks, your muscles around your eyes. Unhinge your lower jaw from your upper jaw. Soften your neck and throat. And your shoulders flow all the way down to your half-open hands. Relax your chest and upper back, your abdomen and lower back. Soften from your hips down toward your feet, flowing through the inner thighs, the inner knees, the inner heels, and just splay your feet to the side. From the top of your head all the way down to your feet, just completely let go. Begin to come out of Shavasana. Bend your arms, put your hands onto your front body, wherever they're most comfortable, your abdomen, your ribs, your chest. Allow your elbows to just remain relaxed on the floor. Bend your left leg, put your foot on the floor. Draw your arm up and over your head. And when you do push off, your arm will become a bit of a pillow for you. So push off your left side, roll to your right. Rest your head on your arm. And allow the top shoulder to roll down. Push your hands into the floor to push yourself up. Namaste.